Well, evidently you have to decide what kind of library you are, and the first duty will be the teaching routines, so you have that. But I think a university library is in a privileged position because it has contact with the teachers and the researchers. And you have to decide, a library can be a documentation centre, or else it can be a centre that participates in the intellectual work of the institution. And I think this is what makes university libraries rather special. It's obviously important there is a worldwide literature of things which are published, but in a way the most important activity is to identify those materials which are at risk and which are not published. And I'm thinking, I suppose, on the basis of my own institution, it's correspondences, it's manuscripts, it's the papers of individuals. I work in a library that is devoted to art and design, so it's correspondence that relates to that, very often in the hands of people who are not aware of its importance. And so contact always with the research community will lead you to materials which might otherwise disappear. And of course these days there are huge amounts of information there. You have to be selective, and you have to fit into whatever research programs are going on around you. But I suppose the other thing is that working in a library, in whatever library, is always a collective activity. We are aware of what other libraries are doing, what archive repositories and museums are doing, and we have to make sure that what we do is not being duplicated elsewhere. We're all committed in the long run to delivering materials on the web. And although our institutions are in a way slightly in competition with each other, in our museum we have to make sure that our visitor numbers keep up. But when it comes to research, we know exactly we fit into a national and international pattern. Well, we're encouraged. The web makes us think globally, always. There is a way in which all of us are challenged, in that we deal with contemporary materials and historical materials, but we don't deal just in information. We have to conceive of it in terms of making our materials and our activities relevant to contemporary debate, to a discussion about the real problems that face us today. It goes without saying that all history is contemporary history, and that the way that we study things reflects our own agendas, and that brings in questions of an ideological and a political nature. We can't be too explicit about that, but being involved in research, that is always the background. A global museum. It is still frustrating for many researchers that the networks of communication are more effective nationally than they are internationally, and this is something that has to be worked at. When I'm in Britain, I find it rather difficult to get a thesis which has been presented in a German university or a French university. There is a literature which is easily available, but it is the job of any museum and any library to make sure that we can have free access, easy access to these materials in whatever language and whatever country they originate. The other important element, of course, is that we have to work collectively, and one is quite aware on a personal level that we develop networks of scholarly cooperation, and this has been very effectively expressed in this conference here, organised by Üniversitesi, where one meets at once colleagues who are grappling with exactly the same problems as we have at home. And I think that international aspect is going to be more and more important in the future.